Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Boardmasters with Chris and Chris here once again.
Hiya.
With our final video in the Jaws of the Lion series, so it will be our review of the overall game. I will stress at this point we haven't done every scenario in the game. We are currently on scenario 15 out of 25. We've beaten 19 and 22 that were kind of like side quests, so we're about 2/3 of the way through the campaign, but I think we have played enough of it now. I don't think there's going to be any dramatic differences in the final 6 or 7 scenarios that are going to change our opinions on our standard categories, which are obviously the art style and theme, components, accessibility, replayability, and the gameplay. I think that's pretty much solidified at this point, so we feel that we're qualified to give our opinions on it, but feel free to disagree down below. So yeah, jumping into the art style and theme, what are your thoughts on that, Chris?
This is very much the type of sort of theme I really love. Having sort of come from sort of like an adventure background, where I've read a lot of sort of adventure books, sort of the fantasy world. I'm a big fan of the Lord of the Rings and that sort of fantasy aspect of the game. So I've always, so as far as that's concerned, I've always been interested in it. So yeah, I really love the theme of the game. I love the fact that you can sort of like develop this character, and I think that's, for me, that's the big sort of draw to the game, is you never, because this character's not stagnating, this character's developing the whole time. It sort of like makes you sort of want to persevere and carry on with the game. But yeah, I think the art style itself, I think it's very well done. I love the fact that you've got so many there's so many elements to the game.
Yeah, I mean the art style in the books I think it's really good. You get a really good feel of the dungeons when you're in there. It captures the sort of grotesque mood of the thing. So I do really like the art style as well. The monster designs are pretty horrendous at times in a good way.
Yeah.
In that they're pretty vile and horrible and very different to anything I've really encountered before. In that, you know, you're fighting a blood tumor at one stage and there's just big pulsing blood ball that you have to explode. And
the wording is brilliant on the flavor texts.
Yeah.
It's very good.
I do enjoy the flavor text a lot, although that is my probably one criticism on the theme aspect of it, in that we're 15 scenarios in. I could give you a very basic run through of the narrative, but I'm struggling to remember much of it other than it's about a guy called Roland and there's a crazy cult involved.
Yeah.
At 2/3 of the way through the campaign, I would struggle to really give you any more detail than that on the narrative, which is a little bit of a negative for me as a sort of narrative-driven guy. I love the world it's set in. I love the design of the characters and the creatures and the art book. But I just wish the story element was a bit stronger.
Yeah, I agree. It's not, I mean, it's not memorable. Like Chris said, you remember certain details, but you don't, there's not sort of anything that sort of like captures the extra bits that would maybe capture within the story. I feel that's maybe lacking a bit.
Yeah.
But that doesn't detract. I mean, Chris has got the app on his phone, obviously, which also reads through the flavor text and the introduction.
The Foreteller app.
Which again does really add something to that. So obviously you've got the voice. And it
helps with the immersion. It's really nice. I do enjoy that. So it is a big win for me.
Yeah.
Just with that slight caveat of, I love the world and I love doing the sort of story bit is just a bit in between the meat and bones, which is, I guess, the gameplay. Going on to the component quality. Again, what do you think about that, Chris?
I think it's good. I don't think it's amazing, but yeah, that might reflect the price point, which we're obviously going to go on to later
Yeah,
in this video. I do like the minis. I think they are quite well detailed.
yeah,
I mean, they are plastic, just plastic minis, but they are very well detailed. Both my Red Guard and Chris's
Void Warden.
Void Warden. So I quite like those. I do like the design on the monsters, but it's cardboard essentially.
Yeah, I'm never a big fan of standees at the best of times. I mean, obviously, if they were to replace the standees with minis, it would be the same sort of price as full fat Gloomhaven, which would be an issue.
Yeah, I mean the cards are got this sort of protection around them.
Well, I bought those. My sleeves.
Okay. The cards are quite thin.
Yeah, I don't know how they'd stand up to the amount of handling they go through without the sleeves.
And pretty much everything else is sort of cardboard.
I love this though. It's my sort of first experience with a campaign book.
Yes, I do like the map. Yeah.
It's just so much more flexible on what they're able to do with it, because obviously if you just have a traditional game board,
yeah,
there's very few stories you can tell in that, but with this you're in a different world on every page, and it looks great.
You've got the variety with this, whereas Too Many Bones, which the game you played before this, you didn't have that. It was just the gaming mat.
Yeah, it told the narrative through the events, but you had to sort of imagine it. You didn't get the sort of immersion of it being in front of you, I guess. But
yeah, I really do like this as well.
Yeah, that's probably the standout aspect of the components. But yeah, I agree with you on the rest of it, that it's good, it's serviceable, it looks nice, it feels good in the hand, but it is cards and cardboard and plastic standees. And I suppose that does, as you mentioned, the price lead into accessibility, in that it's a game you can quite easily get under £40, which is phenomenal value.
Yeah, it is.
I think we're pushing 25 plays of this so far, with the resits getting up to the quest.
Yeah.
And 25 plays that probably on average an hour each, between two people, we're already well over £1 an hour, and in terms of that value scale, it's very easy to get in retail. So it's not one of those ones that's obscure and out of print and hard to get hold of. I suppose the only issues are probably the setup and teardown.
Yes.
That takes a while. Yeah. I mean, I've got the advantage obviously with the table now that we just won't tidy this up, and I'll just put the leaves on if I want to play another game on top. But if you don't have that luxury,
it does take the time.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah, it is worth it, and obviously with your gaming table, it does make an instant added attraction, as we say.
Definitely.
But yeah, like Chris just said, the price point for the amount of hours you're going to get on this game, we're probably, like Chris said, only about 2/3 the way through the game, so there's many more hours for us to play yet. So for £40, it's a steal, really. It's going to probably end up £1 a play or something like that.
Well, I think we're already less than that already. So,
it's
by the time you say it's like 25, we've done 50 combined hours. And if you're playing 4-player, it's even more value for money. And obviously, in terms of getting into it, we talked about the tutorial last week. So in terms of the difficulty, it's a very complex game, but it walks you into it extremely well. Gets you up to speed. So although it's a very complex, deep strategical game, that didn't sound right to me. It does walk you through it and hold your hand through the intro scenarios really well, so you do understand most of the game by the time you get through the tutorial. So I think accessibility is a big win.
Definitely, yeah. In fact, it's easy to get, and the price point, it's a huge win, I think.
with just the setup tear down time as a bit of a negative.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So replayability, Chris.
I mean, it's huge because as we've played this, as Chris said, we've played this game so many times, and the fact that it's so difficult to, especially the tougher scenarios, it's difficult to do it first time. So instantly you've got more plays for each scenario that way. I mean, there's 25 scenarios all in all, but because of how it's sort of broken up with the relevant choices you get as you go further along, you could replay it again with two totally different. Even with a two-player, you could play again with the two other characters and choose the different routes, and play scenarios you may not have played before. So I think replayability and the fact that I don't know if this is the case, but maybe you could maybe take this character onto the other games.
You can onto Gloomhaven. I don't know about Frosthaven, but you can onto Gloomhaven.
So that's even more replayability potentially, or certainly more length of gameplay, should we say? Potential. So yeah, I think it's a big winner with replayability.
Yeah, I suppose it depends how you determine replayability. If you're talking about it, how many times you're going to play the game throughout the campaign, it's huge. If you're talking about playing the campaign again, there's huge potential because there's 4 characters, so there's all different combinations and things. It's just obviously it has the legacy aspects. So I've got the removable stickers and things so that I can reset it to replay it again, but that isn't provided in the base set. That I think that costs about 12 quid.
Yeah.
So if you're just getting the core set, you will put stickers on and change things so that you can't really play it again, or it's much more difficult to reset it. But for £10 a reset, you could potentially buy 3 or 4 packs of that.
Yeah.
And then play through every combination of characters you would want and play for a couple of 100 hours just in Jaws of the Lion. So the potential for replayability is massive with an additional cost, or just the variability within the scenarios is huge, so that I probably wouldn't feel the need to play it again, and that's probably because of the lack of narrative.
Yeah, I think I mean, whether we do or whether we don't get to do it again, but I'd love to try it with more players.
Yeah, I'd like to try the other characters and see it at 4 players, but I think if it had a stronger narrative, and so it felt like it actually, I really wanted to see the story develop in the other branches, as opposed to just, I'd like to see what those scenarios are.
Yeah.
That would probably make it a bit more attractive, but still a big win, and that's just a sort of narrative niggle for me again. So the overall gameplay, Chris, what are you thinking on that one? I suspect it's going to be very positive.
Yes, it is very positive. I mean, obviously, you've touched upon the sort of mistakes we did in the sort of first 5 scenarios, which wasn't the actual game's fault, so to speak, although there could have been a few things that it could have maybe made more clear. But the gameplay itself, I really, really love it. Like I said before, I love the fact you can build this character up, make them stronger. But what I also love about it is the sort of the co-op, the mode you sort of, the way you sort of play it with the other player, and the way you sort of like choose what you're going in with based necessarily on what the other person's strengths are as well as your own.
Yeah, because you're not allowed to talk too much.
No, you're not.
So you can't sort of sit there and say, well, I'm going to do this, this and this, so you should do that, that and that.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll pick 2 cards that scupper what your plan's going to be, or vice versa.
Yeah.
But that is, I guess, a really good thematic, because if you're in the heat of battle in a dungeon, you can't stop and have a chat about what you're going to be doing. I mean, I suppose you could argue in a dungeon, in a fight, you're not going to be taking it in turns, but...
Yeah. But yeah, I do like that aspect of it. I like the fact that you don't know what the other person's necessarily going to do. It is a bit of a surprise. I tend to go for the sort of lower, the lower number. I tend to go first, and then Chris sort of tends to wait for the enemies maybe to come a bit closer.
Well, I think that's the natural thing of the characters, isn't it? I mean, you're the tank and I'm the healer.
Yeah. But yeah, I absolutely love the gameplay. I love how you get the XP, says you can level up and make yourself even stronger. I love the
Yeah,
fact you can.
that makes it easier when you fail a scenario.
Yeah.
When you know you're at least still earning XP. You're in particular earning loot because you're loot hungry. I never seem to get any loot. Other than that, I love the modifier decks and the way you develop those throughout the game. In that, obviously, this would have been traditionally, I guess, dice based. But
yes, I would have thought so.
I really like the fact that they have replaced it with the attack modifiers, so you might get +1, -1, you might infuse an element or heal an ally or inflict a wound.
Or the odd curse.
The odd curse, I do love a curse. And, I commented way back on Crypto Chaos. I assume Crypto Chaos adopted it from these games, and I loved it then and I love it now. I love the enemy AI deck. It makes... I mean, they could have easily just left it at that.
Yeah.
And just the basic stats, and okay, they might have an extra status effect as they get stronger or something like that, but giving them the AI deck makes every round of action different, constantly changes your decisions, constantly re-evaluating what you can and should do, what your elements you've got available, what gear you want to take into a fight. Like, if there's loads of traps, I'm bringing my Fateful Compass and my cards that allow me to move enemies.
You love a trap, don't you, Chris?
I love putting an enemy on a trap. Sadly, the last few scenarios there's been no traps, so I've been very unhappy, and that coincidentally is also the scenarios we start to lose. Yeah. When I can push enemies on traps, we win.
Yeah. The obstacles and the terrain changes.
Yeah, the objectives. I mean, like, scenario we've got open now, we've got to destroy tables.
Yeah. Because not all the scenarios are scenarios where you have to destroy, kill all the enemies. There's a couple of them where if you just perform a certain act, that ends the scenario. If you get to a certain space, it triggers something which ends the scenario. So you don't have to kill the enemies all the time. But I would definitely recommend properly reading the goals.
We've almost messed up a few scenarios by hanging around trying to kill everything and then realising we just had to get to an end point. I can't remember which scenario it was, but we had that trail of like living corpses. And it was like something out of The Walking Dead. I never imagined you could feel such tension from a board game scenario, in that we're running around this map trying to get to the end point to kill this big bad boss, while this horde of zombies that's gradually increasing is basically following us and they can't move very fast, so it is like that slow dread crawl that's like, they're behind you and you can't stop. But that was so much fun. It's really exhilarating. I really enjoyed that, and it just freshens it up.
Yeah, you had to get sort of sandwiched between the enemies.
Yeah, you had the boss at the end. You knew you had to end that boss before this horde of zombie living corpses caught up and destroyed us. But
there's a lot of strategy for each, and each scenario requires so much different strategy.
Yeah.
It's not just sort of one box ticks all sort of thing.
Yeah, you've constantly got to change what cards you're bringing in. You've constantly got to change what gear you're bringing in.
Yeah, which way you're going around the board.
Yeah.
Who's going where, who's attacking what. And obviously that's made more difficult the fact you can't talk very much, as we've already highlighted. So yeah, yes, I love the gameplay. Absolutely love it.
It's a phenomenal, phenomenal game that everybody should try. I think if anyone wants to introduce people to what a board game is in the modern era and what a board game can do, without wanting to spend hundreds of pounds on something big with minis and stuff.
Yeah.
So minimal risk and outlay. It's got draws the line every time for me. The tutorial walks you through it, and then I don't think there are many people who won't get hooked by the constant feeling of progression, the leveling up, the decision making.
Yeah. And as you say, because it is so accessible and it's that price point, you just can't go wrong with it because you will get so many hours of gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So out of 10, what are you plumping for on this one?
Well, it's difficult because I really, really love this game. I was been thinking about what to sort of rank it in my head for the last
As
day
soon
or
as we
so.
start sitting down for these reviews, I always end up talking myself into a 10. I don't know why. As soon as we start talking about it, I'm not going to give a 10 on this one, but I feel like I should after that chat.
I mean, the concept of the game is just, it's worthy of a 10. It really is, and there's so many positive points, we've highlighted already. I mean, it's very hard not to give it a 10, to be honest with you, but it's not perfect. There are faults. There's not many. It's just, in fact, it's more niggles than faults. It's not really
It's
a fault
niggles,
again. It's
yeah.
just niggly bits. I mean, but what? There's so much going on in this game. There's so.
I'm going to go with a 9.5.
Yeah.
And it is only because the setup and teardown is a pain.
Yeah.
And just, I've said it a couple of times that the narrative just is not strong enough for me. In that it's a campaign game, you're playing through an epic narrative and a story, and I have no idea really what's going on beyond the fact that we're tracking some guy down and we had a detour to a arena.
Something I will say is after sort of playing a scenario a few times and failing it, it can get a bit, not all the time, but sometimes a bit grinding, a bit sort of,
It's the same feeling with Too Many Bones.
Yeah.
When you've spent an hour and a half on a scenario,
to not,
and you've replayed it 2 or 3 times, and it's been an hour and a half each time, and it's still not going. That is like banging your head against a brick wall.
I mean, I know you're still picking up experience points and loot. That is something, but yeah, I'm not going to give it a 10 because it isn't. I would only give a 10 to a perfect, what I consider a perfect game. I think I'm going to go with what Chris said, a 9.5. I don't think it deserves any less than that at all.
No, I feel a bit stingy giving a 9.5, but I also don't feel like I can give a 10.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 9.5 for the reasons, a couple of reasons that Chris gave, the teardown and the setup of the game. Obviously, he's got the setup now, the games table, so it makes it so much easier.
And to be fair, I did that most of the time for you anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It was already ready when you got it.
Yeah. And as we've both touched upon before, the narrative, I think there could be a bit more sort of story driven with the narrative, and I don't know, but it just feels like there's something missing with that.
Just a bit more meaningful, I think.
They could have made a few things clearer, possibly, in the beginning. Sort of highlighted things a bit better. Yes, that's the reason. I mean, it's going to score big on the replayability, the gameplay, the price point, everything else.
It's a phenomenal game. That it would be top of my list, even ahead of my 10s. I think I've given Destinies and Villagers a 10 so far.
Yeah.
I think I would recommend this before either of those for someone if you wanted to show someone what a board game is in the modern era, this would be ahead of those two for me.
Yeah. I think I've only given Villagers.
Did you give Too Many Bones a 10?
I either gave it a 10 or a 9. You didn't give it a 10, did you?
I gave it a 9, I think.
Yeah. I do feel bad only giving this a 9.5, to be honest with you. Yeah, it is what it is.
I mean, from a very basic point of view, we've played probably between 3 and 6 hours per day every Tuesday for about the last 6 weeks, solely on this game. And that says it all, really, because I'm still not bored of it.
And there's still more to come, there's probably, who knows, it could be another 3 or 4 weeks left of this.
Yes, I'm very upset you're going on holiday and ruining our rhythm. But that's it for our review of Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, and it is a resounding positive from us. So we'll leave the video there, and, well, this will be up in 3 or 4 weeks, so God knows what we'll be recording after that. I have no idea what we're moving on to, so forgive me for not being able to give you a heads up on that, but I'll leave this video there, and So thanking you for watching. Look after yourself, stay safe, and have a good one. Bye bye now.
Stay safe.